Ambient music, a term, a genre most synonymous with boring, maybe relaxing to you, but music that doesn't really do much. Music that really fades into the background and just sets the tone of whatever place you want, that you can just have a kind of ambiance to what you're listening to. But what if that's too specific of a definition of ambient atmospheric music? What if I was to play this? Or this? Or even this?
If I had a dollar for every time these niggas hate, I'd be rich like Jen, yeah. I got rich with baby face.
All of these things fit into the deep lineage and legacy of ambient music, either being inspired by ambient music or creating ambient music, with the original creator and pioneer of ambient music being so far ahead of his time that he didn't even have the resources and equipment to make what he was trying to attain with ambient music, with whatever music he was making, not technically ambient music yet. I personally think that the definition of ambient music is too constricting. It doesn't really get at all of the different types and aspects of ambient atmospheric music. In this series, I'll be talking about the entire history, the entire beginning and legacy of ambient music. And we're going to start off with the plug trap, cloud rap era. Atmospheric hip hop, like most of the genres and subgenres under the ambient music umbrella, is a very unique origin and transformation. Starting mainly in the South with this one, with artists like Outkast, 3 6 Mafia, and Project Pat. Those are really the major artists that kind of influenced the sound. Those artists started out by not really taking from ambient music in a way, but it was a scenario where people of different backgrounds and different places came up with the same or similar ideas all at once. The chopped and screwed reverb heavy sound of the early 2000s, late 1990s, maybe stretching even farther back to maybe the Ghetto Boys, if you really want to take it back that far. But that sound is really the essence of ambient music, and that sound was created apart from everything that was going on in the ambient music scene in England and Jamaica, in Japan to some extent. All those places really, none of that was directly tied into what they were doing in the South at this time. But what ends up happening is cloud rap, and with the internet era, cloud rap and plug trap, all of that stuff converges, and you have the mixing of ambient music and the mixing of a traditional Southern rap style, now blending together and creating these new genres. Artists now have been cited to really been influenced by Project Pat and Outkast and all these these legendary hip hop acts with songs like Life We Live and records like AT Aliens really being the blueprint of what ambient and atmospheric rap can be as a whole. Slowed down, reverb heavy, all of these things that were prominent way back then, transferring into the cloud rap, plug trap era with just maybe a stylistic change with how they're rapping and a change in drums. But these instrumentals, all of these vibes that they were using back then can really be resampled and have been resampled later on, really showing the timeless aesthetic that was created way back in the late 90s with all these legendary old school Southern hip hop acts. There is no plug trap without the experimentation and innovation of the cloud rap era. The cloud rap era is defined by their just dedication to making really the wackiest and most experimental beats you've ever heard. The artists like Clams Casino and Chris Travis, ASAP Rocky, Space Ghost Perp really pushed the boundaries of what hip hop is with just insanely out there samples and just different beats, but all being tied under a new hip hop aesthetic. Really tied back to the South, tied back to the South Florida, Memphis, Atlanta style. Artists like Clams Casino, who had a very unique way of making hip hop beats. All of his music can kind of be considered vaporwave in a way because it really didn't fit the mold of anything that was going on at the time. Space Ghost Perp started out relatively tame, but really later on went into these weird space beats, especially Lil Ugly Mane 2, just bizarre samples. And all of that really came from the birth of the internet and the internet era and being able to just make music without having the pressure of really having it sell, because you could just release on the internet and whatever niche it was for, they would find it and they would accept it. You can look at these videos, look at these Chris Travis videos, these Clams Casino videos, they have millions of views because all of these artists really found their niche and just sought to make the best music possible, the music that really challenged them versus chasing sales and everything. And that's really what kept it pure, but that's really what pushed the sonic qualities of hip hop really, really far. And all of that comes interrains with the pioneering of plug trap. It really was it's like it chased far out, it orbited far out of what hip hop really was, and then slowly started to come back down with the start of plug trap and everything, and things became more mainstream. But at least for a time, at the early internet stage, cloud rap was really at the epitome of what hip hop should be. After 10 to 15 years of an explosion of the mainstream, an explosion of value in mainstream music, cloud rap really brought it back to its roots and really had a little golden era of rap, in my opinion. All of this innovation and all of this creativity eventually leads to the creation of plug trap. Artists like Lord Dakino, Icy Twat, and Pure Born are all noted as being the real pioneers and frontrunners of what plug trap really is. But there's a bit of a caveat to explaining the birth of plug trap. There's two very different lanes plug trap went in at first, and they both ended up converging in at a later date, like around 2020, 21, into what the scene is right now. It started off with Icy Twat and all of the artists in that particular lane really just like furthering the development of what cloud rap was. Really taking cloud rap and making it cloud trap, quote unquote. Just adding more trap elements to the sound and going crazier with the ambient elements of it. Really blending all of the sounds of the South and all of the sounds of Project Pat and all those influences, and now blending those with traditional Japanese ambient and English ambient samples. And that's where ambient rap really starts. It kind of starts in the cloud rap era with Clams Casino and artists like that, but it really kicks off in this 2015 spot with some of the cloud rap artists, previous cloud rap artists, coming in and making more plug trap sounds. But the plug trap sound is really when ambient rap really kicks off. In 2015, the entire genre changed forever. With the release of Playboi Carti's debut self-titled album, the entire scope and aesthetic of plug trap really changed, and some might say for the better, some might say for the worse, but regardless, it was blasted into the mainstream with artists alongside producer Pure Bourne being projected into the mainstream, and this sound became the staple of a new underground trap, plug trap, hip hop scene. And I think the thing that a lot of people kind of forget is what really made this album so big was the controversy behind this entire album. Playboi Carti's baby voice that was said to be a mockery of what real rap is, being said to be the destruction of rap, and also turning into a meme at the same time really propelled this rap, this entire style of music into the mainstream, or a semi-mainstream, kind of a hip-hop mainstream, not full mainstream. And this is really what helped the entire plug trap sound blow up. Not really the quality of the record, which I find is a very quality record, but what tends to happen with some artists and some music is the controversy behind their music leads a lot of people listening to it just because it's trending, and then the quality starts to come out. Like if it's a very quality record, it will stand the test of time, and if it's not, if it's just a big meme at the time, it'll kind of fade out. And a funny thing is, looking at the reaction of certain people and certain demographics who were never exposed or just weren't there at the time, listening to that music, you can tell if it was actually quality sound that was just followed by a meme, or a trash sound that was just blew up because of internet culture. Like anyone listening to Lil B right now is not gonna get it, versus people who were there during the beginning of that cloud rap, internet rap era. But that was, for better or for worse, that was what Playboi Carti was. He was a big meme at the beginning and started to gain his own real fans who actually appreciated the music. And the biggest issue with plug trap right now is the same thing that made it blow up so many years before, is that so many artists are now copying the one thing that made them super unique. The beat is a very important part of plug trap, but the baby voice is all they're really copying. They're not doing anything unique with that. And producers are really, like the producers in plug trap are really talented. That's gonna carry them for a while, but eventually it's gonna fall into the same pitfalls that cloud rap fell into, where the lyrics were kind of stale, and the technical ability of the rapping wasn't very high. And once the internet moves on from the trend, there's nobody left listening to it who wasn't there and just doesn't get the appeal. They just weren't caught up in the internet culture at that time. And it's not to say that these artists need to be like conscious rappers, or to be making deep bars or whatever. But you can have a high technical ability of rap and still make kind of empty, non-deep music. Like the critique, which is, I think, is totally invalid, but to a lot of mumble rappers, quote unquote mumble rappers like Lil Uzi and Young Thug, was that, their style of voice and all that mumble rapping was gonna ruin hip hop. But if you listen to these artists do ciphers and do like freestyles, they really can rap. Versus the newer artists in this plug trap thing, they can't really rap. Like they can't really put together a string of bars that really just impress you with their rhyme skills and their vocabulary and everything like that. They don't have, a majority of them, I'm generalizing with this, but a majority of them don't really have that. And it kind of leaves the music feeling stale and boring after a time. The voice thing is worn off. There's no novelty to the voice. And now that your production style is becoming so widespread, the novelty to that, there's an expiration date on how many times we can listen to a different similar beat with the same vocal track every time. And what would really save this genre is an artist like Skepta or like A$AP Rocky coming from a place where they already have the technical ability and they're from like a different kind of genre that still fits the mold, and then moving into this plug trap genre and really taking over, and not even just taking over, but showing to other artists like, oh, this isn't just for people who quote unquote can't rap. This isn't just for people who want to do the baby voice. You can do so many other things with the plug trap sound versus this very like overdone Playboi Carti style. From Outkast to Clams Casino to Playboi Carti, atmospheric hip hop has been a very interesting and transformative journey, really showing and demonstrating the ingenuity of hip hop artists being able to not only create an entire aesthetic parallel to another few creators creating a whole genre somewhere else, but really showing how those genres can come together and merge later in the future, blending both elements of two subgenres that really were created. They really created at different times and at different places by different people, but ended up being the same thing. Even with the words I have of plug trap, I don't think it will die the same death as cloud rap. And I think even if it does, ambient music and ambient samples and hip hop isn't over. Even in black music in general, R&B has been really starting to pick up the ambient aesthetics. Artists like Kyle Shin and Alexandria really creating this new R&B ambient aesthetic that's never really been done before. I do a whole video on it, but it's kind of too new to even talk about. There's not even enough artists to really talk about how this genre is coming about. But all of these things point in a positive direction for ambient music and hip hop and R&B.
Let me know if your cloud ain't high, let me flow.